Boom! Welcome back to What the Truck. It's Friday, August 29th. I'm Thomas Wasson. Gonna have a fun show today. Today we're talking about renewable fuels. There's a lot of stuff going on in the space, and with the recent fighting over EVs, that leaves room for other types of fuels, and maybe they will take some limelight, or they've already been existing and just need more attention. A lot of cool stuff going on in the space. We're going to have two guests today. Later on, we're going to be talking with the folks at Nopetro, as well as the folks at Hexagon Agility about some of these recent developments. We're also going to have some news and headlines as well, and then maybe some fun videos to spice things up. I have it on like a Russian roulette wheel, so we'll find that out as well. So before we begin, though, I want to thank our sponsor, Verizon Business, of course. I'm going to read the little call to action. We're going to play the ad here. From the facility to the fleet, Verizon Business gives you real-time visibility into your supply chain so you can keep on trucking ahead of demand and the competition. Learn more at verizon.com/distribution. Kick the ad. Let's go.
Big.
Small.
Essential.
Big.
Small.
Essential.
Small.
Essential.
Grande.
Pequeño.
Esencial. No matter what business you're in, Verizon Business has the network and solutions you need to power it.
Big shout out to the folks at Verizon Business. I'm a sucker for fancy B-roll as well, so got to have a little sprucing it up. Okay, let's dive into some stories here. We've got a few top stories courtesy of the FreightWaves.com website. The first one is Wawa. The convenience store giant is offering parking at new travel centers, but unfortunately, drivers, no showers just yet. Their first facility is operating in North Carolina. FreightWaves' John Kingston writes that for the truck stop travel center business, Wawa is the next entrant, and they're working on truck parking. The mostly mid-Atlantic convenience store chain, whose fans can almost be obsessive about the business, opened its first travel center Wednesday in Hope Mills, North Carolina. While North Carolina is not seen as the traditional heart of Wawa country, which is more likely to be thought of Pennsylvania, Maryland, and New Jersey, the privately owned Wawa said in a prepared statement announcing that the Hope Mill Travel Center is the company's 15th store in the Tar Heel state. So despite the limited footprint relative to other areas, they decided to be where it's going to establish its first travel center that will have features servicing to truck drivers. So check it out right there. They also have two travel centers under construction, two additional ones. One of them in Richmond, Indiana, and the other in Lima, Ohio. Some have said Lima, some have said Lima, like Lima Beans, Ohio. The irony is, I still haven't figured out which one it is because I'm from Tennessee, and the only thing I like about Ohio is that they beat everyone else in football after beating us in the playoffs. That's right, folks. College football trash talk is back, and I've got a little bit of extra spicy here on this Friday. These prototype Wawa stores are between 5,500 and 6,000 square feet. A Wawa spokesperson sent an email to FreightWaves, but the travel centers are just over 8,000 square feet. So they're going to be a little bit bigger. There's also 18 truck parking spots at the North Carolina facility. However, as a long-term parking answer for like overnight and multiple hours during the rest, it's not on the agenda as of now. Let's switch gears a little bit here. We're going to autonomous trucking. I wrote this one. Aurora and McLeod have partnered on an autonomous truck TMS. This integration is the industry's first transportation management system specifically for autonomous truck operations. This was announced by Aurora Innovation on Thursday. And when we're looking at it, it aims to streamline autonomous vehicle adoption for carriers through the software integration. The integration is going to support things like fleet management functions, which could include fun things like load scheduling, dispatch, visibility, and invoices. One of the things as well with this partnership, the integration is targeted specifically at mid-sized fleets that typically rely on McLeod's TMS. These carriers can operate anywhere between 100 to 1,000 trucks, so it's a significant market segment that has previously faced technology barriers for that autonomous truck technology adoption. All right, let's switch gears a little bit here. They're going to the rails, and not in a good way. The Trump administration has fired the rail regulator board member Primus ahead of a merger decision. Unfortunately, the Trains.com staff writes that the board's lone black member was appointed by Trump in 2020. President Trump had announced it on Wednesday that he is firing the STB board member Robert E. Primus, breaking the 2-2 partisan split at the rail regulator, leaving its 2 members short of full strength. So we were 2-2 for 4. Now we may be down to 3. We really need 5. So keep an eye on that as well. Primus, a Democrat and the board's only African American, was appointed by Trump in 2020 and was the lone STB member who voted against the 2023 Canadian Pacific Kansas City Southern merger. Primus told the Wall Street Journal that this is deeply troubling and legally invalid. The Wall Street Journal had first reported the firing, and Primus intends to continue his work on the board. If he manages to stay, his term does run through December of 2027. This is part of a larger effort as the Trump administration appears to be seeking greater control over independent agencies while ousting Democratic members of the Federal Trade Commission, the Equal Opportunity Commission, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the National Transportation Safety Board, and most recently, the Federal Reserve. This was announced earlier this week when Trump said he was removing Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. And it looks like here, if we're looking at more details by law, STB members serve fixed terms and may be removed by the president only for inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance in office. No one has suggested Primus violated those standards according to the reporting. In other news, we're going to tariffs. Tariffs are pointing to a historic import gap for U.S. container imports, according to an analyst. Stuart Charles writes that front-loading drives July increase ahead of the tariff deadline. When you're looking at the tariff stuff, it does kind of take a minute, so we're looking through data from July and into August. And so when we're looking at the quote here, July was a temporary reprieve and was driven by front-loading to get goods in prior to additional tariffs going into effect early August. Noting the slight bounce back followed decreases of 8.3% in June and declines of 6.6% in May. When we're kind of looking ahead, though, this is going to be interesting. And so the National Retail Federation expects the total 2025 imports volume to be down 5.6% for the year. They write in a recent report that given the year-to-date volumes for the first 7 months of 2025, it's actually up 3.6%. That projection translates into volume for the 5 months remaining to be down 17.5%, according to the report. The inbound declines in the balance of this year will be completely driven by tariffs. I anticipate a negative trend line, with some months showing more than 17.5% decreases. So according to the report, unfortunately, we moved all of our stuff in early, and expectations for the remainder of the year are going to be down on year-over-year comps. So keep an eye on that. Imports are a big driver of trucking transportation. A lot of times it comes over from the imports, makes it to the ports, and gets transloaded or transshipped either by rail or by truckload. So always one of those developments that you want to watch. All right, folks, let's go and switch gears here a little bit. We're going to be bringing on our first guests. They're the folks at Nopetro, and we'll be talking about how fleet's results on the first year using RNG. And so we're super excited to be welcoming on both of our guests, Scott Brinner, he's the EVP of RNG Solutions at Nopetro, and Kevin Hyatt, SVP of Business Development at Nopetro. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. We're super excited to be talking gas.
Hey, Thomas. Go Vols. I don't know if you noticed, I grew up in Knoxville myself. So, yeah.
Oh, I love it. No, as a Knoxville alum, we need all the help we can get after, unfortunately, somebody stole our quarterback to California, and in a game of swapsies, we took that person back. So who knows? All right, gentlemen, let's dive in real quick here. I'm going to start with Scott. Let's talk a little bit about what are we looking at for the year right now, especially in the RNG segment, and then we'll talk about how you guys are utilizing landfill gas and everything else. So let's get caught up here for folks who have not been well versed with the space, and then as you want to jump in, just jump in. We'll go from there.
Yeah, renewable natural gas is, I think, having probably the stars are aligning pretty well, we think, for this industry and this technology with a lot of the changes that we've seen in the world. We've been in the business since 2008. We've seen it coming. We've seen the waste fleets are up to, I think, 50% natural gas today. The transit fleets, I think, are around 50% today. And we think, really with the improvements in the over-the-road truck engines in the last few years, and especially with the introduction of the new Cummins X15N engine, that the renewable natural gas has a long way to go right now, and that the over-the-road trucking fleet, you're going to see a lot of market share growth here.
And I want to get Kevin's thoughts as well from a business development standpoint. We have some recent news about fleets adopting and placing large orders of RNG. I know in the parcel, I look at like UPS trucks, they use some RNG as well. Talk a little bit about how it is in terms of customers, because I can only imagine one of the big challenges is we've seen a decrease in incentives for battery electric. That means that other fuel sources and energies are starting to get a little more attention.
Yeah, we feel like we're getting some tailwinds behind us now instead of the headwinds that we've been fighting as an industry for the last 8 years plus. So it's a game changer, and we feel like I said, the headwinds are no longer there. We got tailwinds, and renewable, the RNG piece of it, emphasis on renewable. It's a resource that we have literally almost forever. So from a tax incentive standpoint, from a use standpoint, we think the industry's in a pretty great spot.
One of my favorite things about renewable RNG is that you can capture them from very unlikely places. Two of my favorite being landfill gases and cow gases through biovats. Let's talk about the landfill segment as well, because that's one of the fascinating things is that there is opportunity to capture that and turn that into a renewable source. Let's dive into that, and I'll toss it to either Scott or Kevin, whoever wants to take it. Let's give a quick round the world of how the process works, and we can talk about how it's being distributed and used.
Absolutely. So the natural gas as a motor fuel, as you know, has been around for decades. As a nation, we drill for it, we process it, we put it into a pipeline, we deliver it to customers and power plants and fleet operators every day. The only difference between the landfill gas and the fossil fuel natural gas is the landfill gas is completely renewable. We still have to drill for it in the landfill, we process it, but once we process it and clean it up, it is a fungible product, just like natural gas. It goes in the same pipelines, it goes in the same distribution systems, it goes into the same burner tips.
And I wanted to get Scott's thoughts as well, because I got to do a fascinating thing. My wife majored in environmental geology, and one of the things she researched was landfills. And so it's like a giant bag. You have the landfill stuff going in, it leachates into it, and then it kind of turns into like this vat, and it creates heat and stuff. How do you drill them traditionally? Because I think they have some little pipes sticking out so it doesn't get too hot, but is it kind of like exploratory drilling to find the sweet spot as this landfill is slowly doing its thing?
Not really. It's the whole landfill is basically a sweet spot. What you're drilling is your two things. You're trying to collect the landfill gas to keep the methane from going into the atmosphere and disrupting the ozone layer. So the EPA makes you collect the methane and either do something with it or flare it. So every time you drive past one of those places and you see the little white tubes coming out of the ground, that is a collection system that is collecting that landfill gas. Most of those landfill wells are at most 150 feet deep, just depends on the depth of the landfill. But you optimize that gas collection system by a certain number of wells per acre, depending on the age of your landfill and that municipal waste that's in there.
And I'm kind of curious, is it something where as they age, I'm wondering, do I want a newer landfill or an older one? Because I'm kind of curious if there's kind of like a ramp up period when you're thinking of a landfill. They kind of layer them on like cakes. They're putting in more stuff and adding on to it. And then sometimes they get turned into parks. Is that something where you can kind of repurpose older ones, or is there like a target spot when we're looking to set up landfill collections? Is there kind of like Goldilocks? Is there a just right? What does it look like?
Yeah, there is a just right, and the just right is you get the most methane production. So the most methane gas coming out of that landfill in the first 5 years of when that waste gets deposited. And like a regular fossil fuel resource, that landfill resource will age over time, and the methane becomes less and less concentrated. So what you start off with is maybe in your gas stream coming out of that particular well pipe, a 55% methane content. But over time, that deteriorates as the waste gets older. The biological bugs that are creating that methane have less to feed on, and therefore the methane is less coming out of the ground.
And I want to get Scott's thoughts as well on distribution. So there's an infrastructure, there's maintenance, there's vehicle lifespans, things to consider. Compared to diesel, give us a quick around the world, because I know with that X15 engine that's like a new header on top of an existing block, there's a lot of really cool technology now. For folks who are utilizing it, are there any kind of differences in terms of that infrastructure maintenance and how it impacts a vehicle's lifespan?
Yeah, I would say, I think those are two different topics. The infrastructure, I think what I would say is I think most are unaware of how easy it is to find natural gas fueling infrastructure that exists today. I think there's probably 700 to 800 public stations and another 800 private stations that exist in this country today. And I think with a little bit of planning and route planning, just like you have to do for a lot of your business and trucking or fleet management, you can probably find one along the routes. Now, as for building additional fueling stations, which we're very interested
Yeah, we'll see if we can get him back.
compared to other technologies, it's really not harder. It's really more expensive. There's very reliable equipment. Permitting, construction, design is a very mature kind of sector industry. A lot of people can do it. It's easier, it's faster than it is to do for, I think, electric and hydrogen. Now, gasoline's a little different. You do want to you want to find a location that has a connection to one of the local or interstate pipelines, but it's really not that much harder. As for the maintenance, comparing the diesel to the natural gas, we've been doing a lot of modeling. We've got some very, very experienced experts in fleet management, and they've been dealing with engines and trucks for decades, and we've done a lot of modeling and a lot of analysis. We've been close with the folks at Cummins, Freightliner, Kenworth, Daimler, the Hexagon Agility folks. Our modeling says that at a very, very high level, I would say most people are going out saying the overall lifetime service and maintenance is pretty close. Our deep dive is telling us that over the lifetime, there's a very high likelihood of saving, say, 10, 15% or more on lower maintenance and service costs as long as you take care of these trucks.
That was one of the fascinating things. I was at ACT Expo and I got to sit through a few panels. And one of the things was like the efficiency of engines and how much stuff leaks out. And there was like hydrogen, diesel, there was natural gas and stuff. And so there's a whole area in terms of like, I guess, how much efficiency and combustion. I was kind of curious on that infrastructure side as well. Or no, let me switch gears. When we're looking at fleet maintenance and fleet adoption, I know when I speak with people in the EV space, a lot of people tell me that it's only good for a certain percentage of your fleet based on characteristics of battery, trying to reach fuel parity. When we're thinking of things like renewable natural gas and natural gas in general, is that a tactic or a strategy fleets are using when they're thinking of purchasing? Is it something where I'm looking at transitioning a portion of my fleet that it may work, or is this something where we're seeing it where we're just going to update and put it into the whole cycle? Talk about the transition plans, because it's extremely fascinating as folks are adopting more alternative energies. The way of how they're doing it.
Yeah, I would say that I think as you look at different types of fleets and operations, it's clearly become the first thought has been which fleets, which routes fit easiest. What's the easiest to incorporate? Yeah, the easiest to incorporate is things that where you're using that return to base idea where the trucks leave the same place in the morning behind the fence. They go out for a full route and they come back to the same place at the end of the day. Those case studies, they work very, very well. Now, in terms of the return on investment and the payback period, to cover the difference in cost of the trucks versus saving all this money on fuel, you do want your trucks to be moving probably at least 50,000 miles a year. The more you move, the faster you get your payback. I think our general rule of thumb is if your trucks are moving 100,000 miles or more, you do have the potential to have it pay back in less than a year and a half. As you go down to 50,000 miles, maybe it takes more 2 to 3 years before you've got a return on investment. Now, I think there are also some very good cases, though, for longer haul or regional haul. For example, if you took the LTL business and you said, you looked at a hub and a spoke, and maybe they're 300, 500 miles apart. If you put the station at each end, you should have no issue incorporating the natural gas into those operations too. So I think there's a long way to go, a lot of growth. As the Hexagon guy will probably tell you later on, if you want this truck to go over 1,000 miles in a day and treat it in, your regular sleeper cab long haul operation, I think it's going to work. But, I think the industry's hoping to try it out in other places first.
And I want to get Kevin's thoughts as well from a business development standpoint. I know one example that I liked was dairy haulers would also haul the milk, but their own cows would help provide the fuel. So with the landfill and utilizing some of that, is there an opportunity where I guess if I'm, if I'm a refuse company, give me some natural gas trucks, and then while I'm dumping it off, I'm going to top off the tank. It's kind of like a self-fulfilling cycle. Is that one of the kind of the bigger selling points when we're looking at these renewables compared to a traditional like diesel infrastructure where you're just plug and play, you've got your fuel card, you fill it up and, get on your way?
Absolutely. It's that circular, environmental quality that you're making the fuel, you're collecting the fuel, you're consuming the fuel in one continuous loop. So you're helping the environment on the front end, collecting methane from the dairy operation, and you're helping the environment on the back end by burning a cleaner burning molecule through the engine with little to no particulates and no regen out of your engine, and you got a constant supply of fuel source. So no imports from third world countries. It's you're your own fuel maker and consumer. It's great.
And we got two questions here as well where we got a little bit of time left. The first one is the type of it. I've heard that there are different colors in terms of I don't know if that pertains to quality or just how it's refined, but talk about, I guess there's differences as well between renewable and how it's synthesized from petroleum. Does that have kind of any impact, or is it really just a coloration difference? It's all the same kind of natural gas once it is refined.
It is all, once you process it, it is all the same kind of natural gas. It's basically a fungible, one-for-one replacement product.
Okay, that makes a little more sense. And finally, regulatory. So with the recent moves by the Trump administration, not only targeting California's advanced clean trucks regulation, they're targeting some of the EV incentives. There's been a lot of moves on the regulatory standpoint, dialing back or looking into incentives. How is natural gas kind of fitting into the scheme? I know it's been around a lot longer, a decades plus infrastructure build. What are some of your thoughts now, given some of these new regulatory wrinkles in terms of how that can help out with the RNG space? And it's open to either one. Hop in. I'd like to get some listeners' thoughts.
Yeah, I think that really the regulatory changes are going all in a positive direction in terms of RNG, both from the RNG production side. And Kevin spends more time on that side, but I'm mostly looking at the trucks, the fleets, the technologies on the road. We think that the statements from the Trump administration, from the EPA, all point towards RNG is more accepted. It's domestic, it's infinite, it is economical and financial. We think one of the biggest misnomers really in RNG is that it's an environmental play. I think that's been kind of the brand, that's been what's out there in the news, but really we believe fully this is a economic financial choice that improves the margins, the profits of the companies that'll make this move to RNG. So on the regulatory side, we think it's all going in the right direction for us. We're seeing states talk about taking the VW funds, other funds around the country, and where it was first designated as electric, we're hearing a lot of rumors that a lot of the electric funds are going to be turned off, and people who want those same funds are going to have to come back with different ideas. And the easiest way to do it is with natural gas.
Well, gentlemen, I really appreciate your time and hopping on the show. Is a lot of great information. If folks want to learn more about Nopetro and check out what you all are working on, stay in touch. What is the best way to get more information?
NopetroEnergy.com is probably the quickest and easiest way.
Perfect. Well, hey, thank you all so much, Scott, Kevin. Thanks for hopping on the show. We'll definitely catch up again soon, and we'll see if we get we're getting a lot more traction, so we'll have to touch base again later in the year and see how everything is going.
That's great. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Go Vols.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Thank you all. Let's do a quick break real fast with a palate cleanser. I'm going to throw on, speaking of RNG, cows make it. We're going to see if I have the cow jazz video. We're going to throw that on and then bring on our next guest. Wait for it. Here we go. I can't get enough of this video. It is the greatest thing ever. It starts with one man slowly serenading the cows, and then it just turns into something. A little bit of Friday music for you drivers. Here it comes. You know how much this would cost in New Orleans just to hire these guys? That's like a few $1,000s. These cows are getting in for a treat. So when the Saints go marching in, I think that's a New Orleans one. Yeah. With a little on-air Q&A. I wish we had this in Tennessee, but given our reading challenges, I don't think the cows would understand the music. We're working on it, though. We're working on it. No cow left behind. Still above Mississippi. Take that. And Alabama. Those Alabama cows wouldn't know what hit them. I think we have the piece de resistance. This thing's about to come on. Wait for it. It's a 4-person concerto or a quartet. Here it is. Oh, it's glorious. I used to play the trumpet. I still couldn't play that well. That's the irony. I was a band kid. If I ever have to have a New Orleans style funeral, this is what I want. And you can also bring the cows. If this ever works out, this is my stand-up career tape. We're going to use this as my mixtape for SNL. Talking over cow jazz. All right. Enough about cow jazz. I love it. Okay, folks. A little bit of a palate cleanser here. We're going to be switching gears in a little bit here. We're going to be bringing on the folks at Hexagon Agility, Eric Bippus and Ian MacDonald. I've had the absolute pleasure getting to talk to these two gentlemen in the past, catching up on ACT Expo and other interviews. And I hope you liked the cow jazz. I'm all about the renewable energy, and hopefully that may have spurred the cows to make some more renewable biofuels to fit into my vat later.
Very appropriate. Very appropriate. Yes, for renewable. That's great.
I'm going to get some funding and see if it makes them more happy cows. You know, you saw the California commercials has the happiest cows. I don't think they've offered them to play jazz before. So TBD. Okay, gentlemen, let's dive in. We've got some recent news here from Hexagon Agility. I got to write it. You had a major CNG truck order placed from Trayecto, which is Mexico's largest trucking company. They have placed 100 orders for these heavy-duty trucks that are RNG powered by the Cummins X15N engine. Big congratulations. We're seeing a lot more movements and orders. Let's dive in real quick first, and I want to get let's get Eric's thought first on terms of what we are looking at in terms of the later part of the year in terms of RNG production, and then we'll dive into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, well, we're looking at, it's a tough year for truck all around. You got depressed freight economies. The fleets have been really struggling for the last 18 months, really, on profitability. But we're seeing significant interest in X15N being launched now with Freightliner, with Peterbilt, and with Kenworth. We've got a record quotation book out right now for the X15N quotes. So we're looking at the second half of the year to still be challenging, but the bright spot is we have as many new adopters as we ever had, and it's all focused around X15N, natural gas, looking at solutions that say, okay, we want to have a cleaner emission footprint for our fleet, but we absolutely have to have a positive return on investment. That's where natural gas makes so much sense.
And we're talking on a follow-up as we're looking at that positive return on investment. I was talking to the folks earlier on in the segment and on Nopetro about how some of the recent regulatory changes have been making it more attractive. What are you all kind of hearing across the wire right now? I know there's been a lot of news in the EV space about getting more looks at where this funding is. It felt like there was a lot of incentives being thrown at it. At ACT Expo, one of the big conversations was it's like a free-for-all. It's wide open. Tell us a little bit about some of that on that regulatory side that you all are hearing as we're starting to see those order books start to fill.
Yeah, there's two components to regulatory. One is the legislative dictation from federal and state governments. The other piece is incentive funding. So, we're seeing lots of changes on the regulatory side, rollback of a lot of regulations that required zero emission vehicles or electric vehicles. A lot of that is getting undone in the current administration. So, we see that as opening the door for other technologies. It's been very focused on those specific technologies. And, we've always felt that RNG has a really strong place, and compressed natural gas, CNG, has a really compelling story in terms of the environmental impact and what can happen. But also, as Eric said, for sure on the financial side.
And I want to dive into that order by Mexico. It was really, really awesome. It was helped put together through the Kenworth folks as well. When we're looking at it in Latin America, that's what's fascinating. I know in the U.S. we've had 10 plus years of infrastructure build out. We've got locations, public and private, for RNG. Talk about some of this Latin American market, because it's looks like a good growth opportunity. I was curious if we've seen a similar build out in Mexico in those areas, or if it's a great opportunity to not only deploy the trucks but build up for them.
Yeah, there's, Trajecto is a leading fleet, taking a leadership position, look very much like a U.S. fleet in terms of how they approach their business. Very excellent training programs, and a very noticeable truck too. The orange truck that you posted up there, I really like it. You can see it on the roads in Mexico. They're all over the place, but it's a definitely more in its infancy in Mexico. I think there's a much larger build out of fuel stations in North America than what exists in Mexico. But I think with Trajecto leading the way, if we think of UPS many years ago leading the way in the on-highway CNG space, and sort of creating the opportunity for other fleets to follow in their wake. It's a similar story, I think, with Trajecto in Mexico. They're the leaders, and we're confident that there will be many more to follow.
And
I think the exciting thing about this order too is, Thomas, this has got our back of cab 175 plus dual side mount system. So that vehicle on the road in the United States would easily get 1,300-mile range between Phillips, plus depending on payload and how much weight they're hauling. So this is a particular application that fleets in the United States should look at and say, okay, they're deploying a vehicle, compressed natural gas, that can do over 1,300 miles easily on our roads. We're launching demo trucks right now as we speak, a sleeper truck and a day cab, so that fleets can trial this technology here as well.
I was curious about the weight factor. I remember back in my trucking operations days, drivers would mess up. They'd put too much fuel, or they'd mess up their scales. And it's like, well, you should have filled up before you went to the shipper, because they load by weight. We're thinking of CNG, since it's a gas compared to like I guess a liquid, or correct me if I'm wrong. Is there a weight help in terms of helping potentially haul more, because that the vehicle weight's a little less?
It's actually a little bit more. So we have to accommodate the gas molecules, which takes up more space than the liquid diesel fuel. So it does add a little bit of weight, but we're removing pretty heavy after treatment system as well. So there is a benefit, a trade-off there. The after treatment system is very simple. It's just a 3-way catalyst, similar to what's on everybody's passenger car. So that's kind of fit and forget technology. But because of our fuel system and the space required to store the gas, it does take up a little bit more space and add a little bit of weight. The good news is in North America, there's allowances for 2,000 pounds for CNG vehicles, and that pretty much accommodates the CNG fuel system added weight. So it kind of nets out in terms of carryable weight, what you can actually put behind the truck.
And I had a follow up on the after treatment. I was curious about that, because there's been a lot of talk with the EPA regs, the phase 3, everything with the additional after treatment. What is it? So does it use like a DEF tank, like a traditional diesel, or how does the after treatment work on these things?
I come from the after treatment world, so I'll take this one for sure. The after treatment is way simpler. There's no DEF. So DEF goes away completely. You just put natural gas in the truck, and that's it. So that's a nice feature. Because it's a gas, it doesn't spill also. So I know that, a lot of diesel truck drivers end up with diesel on their hands or their boots or whatever and get back in the truck. So there's none of that. And the outer treatment is very simple. It's the same technology, as they say, as it's in your passenger car. So the catalytic converter that's under your car, it's exactly the same idea.
No regens. That's a strange
No
concept.
regens. No regens.
I would buy one just for no regens. I've had so many drivers, if it doesn't get up to a certain speed, it doesn't burn. If they're under like 45 miles per hour, then it's a 45-minute burn. And the D-rate, because that was another thing I wanted to tie into, was compressed natural gas has an advantage because for some of these engines, if you have it all gunked up on a traditional diesel one, that thing's going to get you down to 20 or 5 miles an hour as it goes down. With the CNG vehicles, was the output just like water vapor, or what does this thing put out?
It's close. It's very, very clean, very low NOx, very low emissions overall. Again, almost the same as your car tailpipe. So definitely in cold weather, you'll see the water vapor, but it's very, very low emissions across the board.
And I want to get Eric's thought as well. The one of the OEMs, a big goal is to have these engines available in various OEMs. You think of your Daimlers, your Volvos, your Kenworths, your Peterbilts. One of the conversations we had earlier was that more OEMs are adopting this engine and making sure they have the logistics of taking it off the line. Where are we kind of at right now in terms of that? Because I think the last time we spoke, there was one of the big announcements where a major OEM had decided to start models of it that are specifically made with that X15N.
Yeah, that's correct. So today, like I said, Kenworth, Peterbilt have launched the X15N and are taking orders. Freightliner enters production this quarter with Cascadia, both in sleeper and day cab form. So we're very excited about that. Certainly Freightliner being a big market shareholder in the United States. And it's very important for fleets to think, this is not a startup technology. It's been around for decades. We have over 100,000 vehicles on the road globally. All of that offered through OEMs. So for a fleet to purchase, a compressed natural gas engine, they go to their local dealer, they quote it, they spec that through the dealer. It's warranted through the dealer. This is not a bespoke, you go back to a new startup. So it's very mature technology, easy for the fleet not only to adopt initially, but also service and maintain and keep the truck on the road.
And I've got a real nerdy question here because I've had the ability to talk with more OEMs now. One of the fascinating things, and I spoke with an auctioneer, was that trade cycles. So if I'm thinking like some large on highway fleets every 3 to 4 years for like the sleepers, I've heard day cabs maybe 6 years. How are we looking from once I start adopting it? Is it going to perform similarly in terms of depreciation, trade cycles, the whole shebang? How are those things holding up as well? Because I'll preface it by saying, unfortunately, I saw some EVs that were already being auctioned out and they're like a year. They're like 2024 models. I was like, oh no, you only got a year out of the poor thing.
Yeah, I'll take a crack at it and see what Ian says. But yeah, certainly, we look at residual values. You look at, fleet's hold pattern. Is it 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, or do they hold it for life? Compressed natural gas vehicle is certainly, if you hold, the longer you hold it, the more return on investment you have because your maintenance cycles are much lower versus an older diesel vehicle where you're going to be getting into diesel oxidation catalysts, DPFs, after treatment systems. You just don't have that in a compressed natural gas vehicle. But we are looking at, the hold patterns of fleets to ensure that there is a value there. And the exciting thing that we've seen historically is you don't see a lot of compressed natural gas vehicles sitting on the used lots for very long because they're quickly purchased and they're deployed into different applications. So as the population grows, we believe that by 2030, 10% or more of all new purchases will be natural gas vehicles for heavy duty trucking. That residual piece is really important. And maybe you have some thoughts.
Yeah, just quickly on the residual part. Compressed natural gas vehicles are not new. They've been around for over a decade, well over a decade. And we've seen the technology improve. We've seen residual values improve too. Over time, and with the X15N engine, it's very new, but it represents an engine that can be deployed in a lot more varied applications, cover a lot more of the bases in terms of the total truck market. So I think we'll see residual values climb even more because of the diverse sort of ability of that engine in a secondary market.
That was one of the things that I really like getting to do these interviews because it's always more educational for me as well. So you guys are teaching me as we're talking about it. And one of the fascinating things I've learned as the trucks get older after year 4 or year 5, some of the parts that do go out are these after treatment systems, the NOx sensors. There's a lot of computer stuff dedicated towards it. So one of the cool things I think as the RNG from a selling point is that when we're looking at how long this truck has and what things break, I'm assuming there's a good opportunity on TCO savings because you're not going to have to put it in for certain things that are related to that filtration systems compared to like a diesel.
You want to hit it, Eric?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, without a doubt. It's certainly when we look at, and the fact that compressed natural gas meets EPA 2027 today, the fact that you don't need all that after treatment certainly is a benefit. And it depends on the use cycle too. If you're a start-stop more heavy duty trucking application, refuse, where they're very, very aggressive on after treatment systems because you just don't get up to those highway speeds, compressed natural gas really is a no-brainer in those sorts of applications. So absolutely, we see the maintenance cycles for compressed natural gas staying very flat versus on diesel, where it tends to spike up after 4 years.
And final questions as well. Looking ahead, I spoke with a large OEM saying order books for 2026. They're going to be a very big topic to talk about. When we're looking at the CNG space as well, are there some things we need to pay attention to looking ahead to start seeing on terms of adoption and some key indicators you want to make folks aware of?
Yeah, I think Eric said it off the top. We've got a huge pipeline of quoting activity, lots of interest. You mentioned the ACT Expo. There was a number of prominent CNG vehicles visible at the ACT Expo down in California, and I think that generated even further interest. I think there's been some challenges with people attempting to deploy electric vehicles, which makes them look for an alternative. And compressed natural gas really makes a lot of sense, and it's mature, and a lot of people have switched their focus, I think, from EVs and ZEVs to natural gas vehicles. So we're optimistic that the freight market's going to finally start rebounding, and a lot of those quoting activity, quoted opportunities are going to turn into orders and new customers.
Perfect. Gentlemen, thank you so much for hopping on the show. Folks want to learn more about Hexagon Agility, check out what you have. Best way to get more information.
All right. Thanks, Thomas.
Yep. HexagonAgility.com.
HexagonAgility.com. Yeah. And Eric and I can answer emails too. So it's first name last name at hexagonagility.com.
Beautiful.
And
Gentlemen,
any fleet's interested in demo trucks, we have them available.
I need to write. Hey, next time you guys are, if you ever need some press writing in it, hit me up. I'd be happy to do it. I still need to figure out a way.
We'll be sure to do that.
Yeah, no, we'll get you in it.
Yep.
Yes. TBD, gentlemen. TBD. All right. Thank you so much for hopping on the show. We will catch up again soon.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Thomas.
Thanks.
We're coming up near the end on this wonderful Friday, but do not fret. I've got a little bit of housekeeping as well. We have a discount code for F3, the Future of Freight Festival. Make sure that you get it in there, $900 off with WTT F325. That's What the Truck F325. Put it in there. You also want to put in your Freight Tech 100 nominations as well. That ends on September the 1st. So go up there, go sign up, get your Freight Tech 100 nominations put in. You don't want to miss it out. A few dates to remember here as well. In addition to September 1st having nomination end, the Freight Tech 100 is announced on the 22nd, so you want to make sure that you stay in tune for that. And then the Freight Tech 25, the top 25, are announced at F3, the Future of Freight Festival. New date, October 21st and 22nd, so you don't want to miss it. Sign up for it. It's Friday. That's it. I'm excited. I'm on vacation next week, but we've got a lot more great news with What the Truck coming up that week. You don't want to miss it. Just stay tuned. It's going to be amazing stuff as always. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to be not only your host, but being your host for today and for the time. So I will catch up again with you all soon. Speaking of which, That's it for this show. Don't be a stranger. Apple, Spotify, YouTube, SiriusXM Channel 146, wherever you get your podcast needs. Sign up for What the Truck, the newsletter, and subscribe on YouTube. I'm Thomas Wasson. That's a wrap. Keep it classy. Keep hauling.